This is Electric Universe Eyes, and today I'm going to narrate Thunderbolts' Picture of the Day, titled The Eggs of the Thunderbird, posted December 3rd, 2010. That lightning can leave lasting impressions in the landscape is well known. Fulgurites, also familiar as petrified lightning, are amorphous, sometimes tubular structures formed when quartz sand is fused under the influence of a lightning strike. Can atmospheric plasma produce similar transformations on the surface of other material than sand? An affirmative answer is suggested by recent experiments conducted by the American plasma physicist C.J. Ransom and the Australian physicist Wallace Thornhill. The pair discovered that spherules are often created when an electrical discharge is unleashed upon materials as diverse as a piece of iron oxide, carbonates, manganese dioxide, aluminum, magnesium silicate, rutile, perlite, diatomaceous earth, and hematite. Although these experiments have only scratched the surface of a phenomenon almost entirely new to science, patterns are already beginning to emerge that link the intensity and duration of the discharge, coupled with the chemical composition of the affected metal or mineral, to specific qualities of the spherules that are formed. Their quantity, size, and distribution, their relationship to craters, whether they are hollow, and so on. For example, it appears that hematite impacted by an electric discharge tends to produce hollow spherules with relatively thick walls. While the potential impact of these findings on geology may be considerable, the fledgling subdiscipline of geomythology is likely to reap benefits too. A large set of superstitions and mythical traditions worldwide are concerned with eggs and boulders deposited on occasion of lightning flashes or other luminous transient events in the atmosphere. Such traditions typically do not belong to the framework of creation mythology, but exist in isolation as a type of proto-scientific folklore. The following Korean legend allegedly describes events taking place during the 1st century BCE. Quote, "Suddenly there was a lightning flash, and an auspicious rainbow stretched down from heaven and touched the earth in the south by the well called Najong in the direction of Mount Yang, where a white horse was seen kneeling and bowing to something. The white horse neighed loudly and flew up to heaven on the rising veil of the rainbow, leaving behind a large red egg, some say a blue egg, lying on a giant rock near the well." End quote. Another tale from the Korean peninsula relays how a purple ribbon with 6 round eggs came down from heaven in the regime of Jimhae, northwest of Busan, in the year 42 CE. Quote, "Lo, the heavens opened and a purple rope descended to the earth, with the golden bowl wrapped in a red cloth tied to the end of it. When the cloth was removed, the bowl was found to contain 6 golden eggs, round like the sun. The people worshipped the eggs." End quote. Or again, quote, "Spirits descended to place eggs in the mountains, hiding themselves in the mist. In the darkness a voice was heard, but no one was to be seen. The gathering crowd responded to the voice with dance and song. After 7 days the wind blew hard and the clouds cleared, and from the blue heavens 6 round eggs descended at the end of a purple string." End quote. Ilion, the 13th century chronicler of these beliefs, dismissively judged that, quote, "These stories are too fantastic to believe, although they have traditionally been accepted by the populace as facts." End quote. Nevertheless, the operation of some genuine natural event is suggested by cross-cultural parallels. A legend from the Balkar people of the northern Caucasus testifies to the formation of a crater around a sky-fallen rock. Quote, "The primordial blacksmith Debet saw an enormous star with a tail flying in the middle of the sky, and it was brightly lighting up the whole world." End quote. On approaching the place where it had landed, he saw, quote, "a huge hole, and in the middle of it was a large dark blue stone, which had split in two." End quote. The possibility that this concerned a meteorite fall rather than the forging of a spherule does not apply to striking parallels furnished by the Zulu of South Africa, who conceived of lightning as the hen Inyoni Yazulu, or else a bird called Impundulu or Intakazulu. One informant, Mpengula Mbanda, dwelled on the physical traces this creature leaves behind. Quote, "For where the lightning strikes the ground, the doctors say there is something resembling the shank of an assegai, which remains in the earth, and this thing is called a thunderbolt. They dig till they find it and use it as a heaven medicine. And so they say that the courage which they possess of contending with the heaven is that thunderbolt, which is found where the lightning has struck." End quote. As in the Korean account, the treasure is only discerned once a fog has cleared. Quote, "But as regards that bird, there are many who have seen it with their eyes, and especially doctors and those persons who have seen it when it thunders and the lightning strikes the ground. The bird remains where the ground was struck. If there is anyone near that place, he sees it in the fog on the ground and goes and kills it. He sees that it is quite peculiar, for its feathers glisten. A man may think that it is red. Again, he sees that it is not so, it is green. But if he looks earnestly, he may say, 'No, it is something between the two colors, as I am looking at it.'" End quote. Another Zulu report draws attention to the grooves cut into the surface when the lightning bird, quote, "comes down to earth to lay its eggs. When coming to lay its eggs, it sweeps down over the earth, and in order to stop its speed, it digs up a furrow in the earth. Where the furrow ends, there its eggs will be found." End quote. A disturbance of the ground is also implied by the claim that, quote, "the lightning bird buries itself in the ground where it strikes." End quote. Similar beliefs occur elsewhere. Salish people from the Pacific Northwest coast of North America would explain, quote, "the large black stones found in the country as the arrows of the Thunderbird, a small, red-plumaged creature which shoots arrows from his wings as from a bow, the rebound of the wing making the thunder, while the twinkling of his eyes is the lightning." End quote. Some of the Sioux, Dakota, quote, "imagined that the large boulders on the northern prairies were the spent ballistics of the water monsters, hurled up at the birds, who struck back with lightning." End quote. Whereas the geomythologist Adrian Mayer adduces kangitame, or bolts of lightning which have turned into black stones, or, quote, "bolts of lightning which have turned into black stones shaped like spear points," end quote, and explains these as pointed belemnites. Such fossils are hardly large enough to qualify as large boulders. A closer study of the Sioux tradition is desirable. Be that as it may, it is tempting to relate such anecdotal reports of hollow eggs and massive rocks discovered in the wake of lightning to the spherules recently generated by plasma under laboratory conditions. The comparison does leave a number of loose ends, however. For example, the material cited from Korea and the Caucasus invariably adds that some heroic or royal ancestor hatched from the preternatural eggs, respectively Parkhaiok Geos, Kim Suro, and the other kings of Gaia, and the Nart hero Yoruzmek. As the study of these spherules is itself still in its infancy, however, it would be premature to dismiss the analogy with such accounts on this ground. Perhaps a lightning strike potent enough to generate a spherule on the ground would create a local magnetic field, sparking hallucinations in the minds of sensitive observers. The discovery of diminutive beings inside the shells would then shade into similar aspects in the phenomenology of ball lightning and UFO lore. Another factor to consider is that spheres of plasma, known as plasmoids, may also form along the Z-pinch, or the path of discharge, itself, well above the actual surface material. Like spherules created on the ground, such plasmoids can also be identified in the traditional lore of different cultures, abundantly so, but they may need to be formally distinguished from the spherules produced in Ransom's and Thornhill's laboratories. Ample fertile ground for exploration, but before such highly conjectural ideas should be addressed, scientists need to be on the ball insofar as the basic physics of plasma-generated spherules are concerned. This leaves the ball in the court of the geophysicist. This was written by Rens van der Sluis. For more information, please visit thunderbolts.info.